thank you for joining us today. And at the heart of whistleblowing are the whistleblowers themselves. And today we're joined by the incredible and brave Ronèl van Wyk, who took heart and bravery and patriotism of all things to report at a time where an incredibly important case was happening in South Africa, to whistleblow rather, where an incredibly important case was happening in South Africa. Ronèl, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I mean, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What does Ronèl like? What does Ronèl do?
Ronèl does a lot of things. Ronèl is 53 years old.
Yeah.
She's the mother of two beautiful children, two beautiful daughters, Marlies and Kayla. Very proud of them. And I was in the police when I finished school.
Okay.
And I was twicely decorated, so I've got 2 medals.
Okay.
And now I didn't go to war for them. It's for transformation and 10-year service.
Oh, that's beautiful.
When I go to school, when I teach the kids about things that they should do and should not do, they always ask me, did you go to the war? And if I say no, what it is for, they're always like, oh, no, it's not impressive. But then I became the youngest lieutenant colonel ever in the intelligence department of police. And then Pravin Gordhan approached me from SARS to ask me whether I would love to come and work for SARS, not knowing anything about that. But it was the Jackie Celebi stage in the police, and Jackie Celebi and I didn't get on well. You will see there's a bit of a pattern emerging in my life. And I then decided to take the offer from SARS. It wasn't just for the financial means. It was a new opportunity for me. I could see the police where I worked, the values were not aligned to mine. I cannot work outside of my own values. I've seen throughout my life that it's impossible. So I then became the head of criminal investigations and prosecutions at SARS. That meant that I was managing about 350 investigators throughout the country, with operations managers and branch managers as well. And then I decided it was not enough. Then I decided to do an MBA at Gibbs. So this is my alma mater.
Okay.
Very proudly a member of Gibbs alumni. And that changed my life. And then state capture happened. And that happened and it changed my life forever.
I mean, I still, and we'll go into that, but I still have a smile on my face as you're speaking, because it's such a scenic career that you've had.
Yes.
That sort of the dots always connect really well when you connect them backwards. But let's go back to the 18-year-old Ronèl. Police service is not the most popular picks for a beautiful 18-year-old in South Africa who's a woman also.
Yeah, it was... I grew up in an abusive house where there was no money. And I then decided to make something of myself. There was no money for me to study. And then I had the option to go to the police, not really knowing well what the police involved, everything that the police involved. But it was exciting times for me. And when I joined, I was 18 years old. A month and 2 days. And that's still a child.
That's a baby.
That's a baby. And the next moment they give you guns and they tell you to shoot at things and you have to leopard crawl and the sergeant shouts at you and you have to make your bed in a certain way. But I saw that I worked well in structured disciplinary places where there's rules and regulations. So I was not the best student in the college, which I was very upset about. I'm very competitive with myself. But, what I saw in my life, nobody can teach me that. So today when a crisis occurs, I will be the one that says it's okay.
I mean, I can tell you've got incredible work ethic that has translated for someone who didn't quite know what they would find in the police to then being an excellent law enforcement agent who then, gets asked to go run an incredibly interesting criminal team or criminal investigation team at the revenue services. And then to a certain point, then you are working in the most questioned sort of case in South Africa, which essentially that is where part of your life started changing.
Yeah.
You can tell us about that. And when you say that state capture, really, that is where your life changed.
So I have to just say this. SARS was the most beautiful place to work in. Pravin Gordhan was very hard on us. Ivan Pillay was a beautiful man. He taught us about the higher purpose, and that's what you live for. I'm a corporate citizen and I'm a servant of this country, and I believe it until today. So I found something that I could connect to, that patriotism that I connected to. And what made it difficult was when Tomoyani came into SARS, that culture completely changed. So that higher purpose was gone. There was no structure. There was no strategy. And with Praveen Gordon, we went through a lot of change models. But we understood the new strategy and why it had to happen. So it was transparent, it was organized, and you could see the benefit of it. Whereas with Tomoyani, it was the complete opposite. Now, in 2013, Mr. Pillay called us into a meeting and he said, we need to batten down the hatches, a storm is coming.
Sure.
But we could never prepare for the storm. We couldn't even consider how big the storm would be. And then when Tomoyani came in with Bain, they started with a restructuring. And that's where I blew the whistle, not formally. I blew it formally at the Nugent Commission, and I did a submission for Zondo. But wherein I said, I want to understand this because I want to work with these people because it's in the benefit of our country. So I researched 42 business models. I do have an MBA, so I should be able to do some research to try and understand what this new operating model is that Bain wants to introduce. And not one of those 42 models could tell me what it is. So I had a suspicion, and I think this is what happens to whistleblowers. You're actually astonished to see how blatant and open and honest the wrongdoing is. So in my mind, it was like, Ronèl, you're against change, you're not transformational. So I questioned myself the whole time because I couldn't believe the blatant openness with which they were eviscerating. Eviscerating is the right word, the enforcement capacity. So I then had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Moyani. I scheduled a meeting with him, and I took with 4 files, in which I explained to him the old strategy.
Sure.
And I asked him to explain to me what is this new strategy, because there's blocks. But before you can have structure, you must have a strategy. You don't need to do an MBA for that. So he couldn't explain it to me, and there were some harsh words that fell that day.
Okay.
And after that, I started experiencing some retaliation.
Within the organization?
Firstly, it was small. You couldn't really say, I thought it was in my mind, I'm being paranoid and things like that. But for example, when they restructured my unit, I had 7 branch managers, 42 operations managers, and 350 investigators. It took all but 7 minutes, a 7-minute discussion, to restructure such a complex unit like criminal investigations and prosecutions. It was the top investigative unit in the world.
Sure.
They flew me to Paris 2 or 3 months before I resigned to go and explain at the OECD why we were doing so well, because we had a 99% conviction rate. So what that means is, in 99% of the cases we send to court, we have a conviction. So it's either direct imprisonment or fine.
Would you say, Ronèl, that, and I'm asking this question at the back of, would you say that your experience as a excelling law enforcement agent in particular, and the period 10 plus years that you spent within the SAPS helped you to run such a successful criminal investigation unit, as opposed to, I think a lot of times in South Africa we speak about quite a number of people that are in leadership positions that are employed either on, could be cadet deployment, could be whatever it is, as opposed to meritocracy.
Yeah.
Would you say that in positions such as those, and I'm asking this question deliberately thinking of multiple South African institutions where it's possible that we should probably be picking out of people out of your SAPS, your SANDFs, and to have them in those positions?
I couldn't agree more with you. And what the magic was, when Praveen saw this person with the potential, he had this ability to see people with potential. He was not kind to us. He was the hardest manager I've ever had in my life. But he could draw out potential in you that you didn't even realize you had. And then to combine that with sending me, because he gave me a bursary to study my MBA, it completed the picture.
Sure.
But what I have to say, it was not just about me. I had a team of people that you don't understand. They were all brilliant. I knew each one's name. I knew their husband's name. I knew their kid's name. And that's something I was taught by Praveen as well as walking the floor, knowing your people. And one of the best compliments I ever received was from an investigator called Andre Botha. He helped me with my MBA a lot. And Andre said to me, you know what, Ronèl? And he was an investigator at that point for about 42 years.
Sure.
He said, you can ask me anything. You can ask me to clean the toilet and I will do it for you. Because I know why you're asking it. There's something behind it and you've got integrity. So I want to give kudos to my team of people that are still there and that are suffering every day. Because SARS is not, it's not the same as it used to be, and the changes are very
incredible.
slow. So yeah, I can mention names, but I don't want to. But they are Toby Miller, Eben Skuman, Motsoleng Setswani. I actually developed him to take over from him.
Sure.
And I believe that he should be, after Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, he should be the next National Commissioner of Police.
And I want to come to that part now that you mention, the Commissioner of Police and everything that's happening at this point in time. When you went and reported, instinctively so, in fact, I also want to say quantitatively so, because you took 42 models and said, no, but something does not add up here. I'm going to take all the experience and knowledge that I have and break it down and then ask questions. Even though you came from a law enforcement agency sort of background, did you fully understand the risks of what you were doing by speaking?
No, I did not.
What did the speaking process look like?
It was very instinctively. And maybe I was a little bit naive in terms of believing that with Praveen, you could say what you want to, but you had to back it with facts and evidence. And I thought that it would be the same type of leadership because SARS is such an important and vital organization. So why would you put people there with nefarious reasons? And so I misjudged that completely from my side. You question yourself when you blow the whistle because you don't want to believe that people are bad. You want to believe that they are there for the good because that's how you believe.
What's happening?
And I realized far too late. I think when the Nugent Commission's report came out, I was vilified in what I said, to say that there was nefariousness from Bain in the restructuring that they did. I mean, there were 17 meetings with President Zuma and Moyani before he was even appointed, before Bain even had the contract. We only found out about that later. But the questioning yourself and the paranoidness that I had, I hope that's a word, but how paranoid I started getting. Because with every time that you mention something, because I'm a change agent, I believe in continuous improvement. So at every meeting, I would put up my hand and I would be prepared. And I would say, this is not how it can work, or in my understanding, this is not working, but I want to propose the following. And I was shot down. And then there was rumors that I'm part of the rogue unit and things like that. And then the KPMG report came out. They mentioned my name in the glossary, but nowhere else in the report.
For what then?
So it was just to implicate me. It was just that one small tick behind my neck, behind my name. And they implicated me in the rogue unit.
So, and with that, I'd like first, let's talk about the challenge, because I can imagine, I mean, it's one thing to have your report out there, or your end report, a significant report of that nature with your name in it. It's another to, as you said, you're paranoid, and therefore the traffic lights don't feel like just a red stop anymore, I can imagine. So some of the changes, what was the biggest change really in your life that happened immediately after blowing the whistle?
So I blew the whistle not only on an academic level, I also blew it in terms of a case of fraud and corruption amounting to 93 million rand. And this is well written about in the newspapers and things like that, where the chief officer changed my memorandum's recommendations to say that there's no proof or evidence that this happened, this corruption and fraud happened. But in fact, in the content of my document, the evidence is presented, and the annexures to that memorandum spoke to clearly it was documentary evidence. So that was testified to at the Nugent Commission. So now so let me explain this story to you. So I get asked to do this investigation. I do it and I find more than prima facie evidence. I find evidence and I say that there should be an in-depth investigation. The group executive and the chief officer of enforcement changes the recommendation to say there's nothing wrong. My next port of call is to call the anti-corruption unit, which I did. I sent that report with a report from me stating that this is happening. I want to report this as something that's not the right thing. Yusuf Dinath receives that report. What we didn't know was they were intercepting our emails at that point. Yusuf was suspended after 2 weeks after that. Yusuf was suspended for no reason whatsoever, and he was on suspension for 2 years. So I had to live with that guilt as well. Not that it was my fault, but my friend Yusuf was impacted by me doing something. So that was the type of things that happened. And after that, I had 7 investigations against me. And it implicated my family. They surveyed my children. They drove behind them. They took photos of them. Photos of my house in a security complex with my 2 vehicles in front, and they posted that in intelligence reports. Apparently, and they posted photos of my husband with criminal gang leaders in the Western Cape to say that he's a smuggler. And just for that record, we've been staying in that small house of ours since 1997, and we still only have 1 bathroom. And trust me, if I had money, I would have bought a second bathroom. So my husband must be the worst smuggler in the world. I say that now, in a joking way, but they implicated him. My children had bodyguards and bulletproofs, and they couldn't go out of class. They couldn't go on the playground.
How old were they? Because I mean, one of your daughters is young. She's quite young already.
She's 30 years old. So she was in matric. So that is 18 years. She was 17, 18. And Kayla was about 14. And the implication of all of that on my children, and that is something, maybe I'm not answering all your questions now, but the only thing that I feel bad about is the fact that I prioritized my family second. It was always for the country, believing that what I do would be for them as well, to get a better country. And I was in a position where I could make a change and a difference for our beautiful country. So that the fact that I put my children through all of that, I will never forgive myself for that.
And I mean, Ronèl, with that as well, you mentioned this. I mean, I can imagine the amount of psychological support, for example, that would be required, not just for you, but for your family, for your girls at that point in time. But equally so, when you whistleblew, you were in a position of influence, a position of, I would imagine, reasonable remuneration that allowed a certain lifestyle, etc., etc. You worked hard for it.
Yes,
it wasn't thrown at you. The support, what did the support look like in those early days, and what did you lose as well?
I lost my career, my entire career. I lost that. I wanted to be the next National Commissioner of Police. That has always been a dream of mine. When I entered the police, you had to do an interview. And they said to me, so what is your dream? What's your 10-year, 20-year plan? And I said, I want to be the first female National Police Commissioner. And somewhere, there's still that dream of mine. But I think Nkwanasi is going to take that position from me. And I'll give that to him. I lost myself. I was heartbroken. Financially, I took a big hit because I was not employed for 3 months. And then the trauma that we all went through during that period. My youngest one went to a psychiatric clinic for 21 days because she was so paranoid that she didn't want to come out of her room. She was badly behaved, but we knew where it came from. I myself was in a psychiatric clinic about 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm proud to talk about it because I think there's a stigma about mental health, and we should say that it takes courage to go and ask for support. So at that point in time, my family didn't give me any support. They just knew I was in the newspapers, and they didn't even read the newspapers.
Were they angry at you?
They were disappointed and angry with me. And I had Gulf War syndrome. I had battle fatigue at that moment. I couldn't fight any. I was just fighting for my own existence. So financially, I lost a third of my salary at that point, plus a 14th check that I used to get at SARS. And I had to find a job. I subsequently suffered two strokes. And as a result of that, I suffer from epilepsy. And in the beginning, I got up to 9 epilepsies a day until I got my medication right. So it's been... And
where are you at this point, Ronèl? Are you at home?
No, I'm employed. So 3 months after I resigned from SARS, SNG Grant Thornton approached me. Now, I worked at a small forensic firm. They approached me first. And then they were approached by Luther Labello from the Commissioner's office to say, it would not be in your benefit to employ Ronèl. So I lost my job there. So then SNG Grant Thornton, a big transformational audit firm that I'm very proud to be associated with, approached me and offered me a job, which I took. Obviously, they couldn't pay me as well as SARS could, but I was just thankful for the opportunity. And I'm a Christian, so I believe that this was God's path for me. And then I'm still with them. Last year, October, they promoted me to the compliance and ethics officer of the company. So again, I'm in the situation where I do investigations, but that's what I'm good at. So I'm enjoying that, and they're very good to me.
I mean, you mentioned SNG Grant Thornton, for example. Some of your family, and just I suppose the spiritual support that you would have seen just from your faith. Are there any other groups or people, person that stood by you?
No. I got one phone call the day that I resigned, when I was escorted off the premises like a criminal with only my MBA certificate and my succulent. I got one phone call from one of the people I worked with, which said to me, "Thank you for what you did for the country." Ivan Pillay took me for lunch. He was always a supporter, but for the rest, none whatsoever. What made me angry, and what I'm still angry at, is that nobody else stood up with me. I can understand with what I lost, but I think if there were more than just one person, maybe we could have made a difference. And that makes me angry, but I understand why people didn't do that.
It's been for 12 years?
Since 2017. So it's 8 years.
So it's been 8 years.
Yeah.
That's a really long time, but that's a really short time at the same time. I say short time in that traumatic events change your life and change your frame of time.
Yeah.
You have a lost sense of time where something can feel so short, but it's it's a matter of it being 8 years, but it's been only 8 years and nothing has really happened. Let's just talk about the journey for someone who thinks that it can blow out really quickly from an 8 years perspective.
So maybe I'll start the answer by saying, it feels like yesterday when I went into SARS and I submitted my resignation letter, because they didn't give me the opportunity the day when I resigned, and they just escorted me off the premises. And I had to complete my pension forms and my other forms for termination of my employment on the floor of the reception at SARS head office, with people walking by that I knew, a spectacle. I asked them not to cancel my medical aid or cancel my cell phone contract. I did both of that on that day. So all of a sudden, my child who's a diabetic can't go to the doctor that day because our medical aid has been cancelled. I can't phone anybody. Nobody can get hold of me. So just that, after everything like that, you still have to face this. It sounds small, but this retaliation as well. So today, I would have been far more prepared. I knew, I wish that I could tell whistleblowers in a practical manner, and maybe this is the discussion we are having here, but what to do in these circumstances. I would have been far more clever. I didn't understand the Protected Disclosures Act well. There was no whistleblower house. So if I had somebody like that, I would have felt protected. And I was vulnerable. I didn't have any protection. I saw what was happening to Praveen with the criminal charges and Ivan and Johan van Lochenberg. And I was just saying to myself, little old me, what's going to happen to me? But at that point, when things blow out, what I realized was the support of my family that I got. Of my husband, who've been married to me for 32 years. That man has got a remote straight to heaven. And then my 2 children. And I'm so proud of them.
Is that what kept you going?
That's what kept me going. And because they tell me every day how proud they are of me and what I've meant to them.
And I mean, I get to hear, because family is an incredibly important thing to me. And it is what gets us going through the most difficult and most sensitive parts. With that said, I mean, you became known and reports are written about Ronèl, newspaper articles with news. Ronèl was a known name. And while it was for a good thing, but not in the most good way at that point in time, especially what the effect have. And I mean, if we look at what's happening, for example, to General Mkhwanazi now, you wish you could copy and paste and say, can that support? What does that do to you now, Ronèl, 8 years later, when you're seeing someone who is of your same background, whistleblowing in the same process as you do, but maybe there are far more places, processes, and measures of protection, etc. 8 years later, then what does that do to you?
I think the difference is that the way he's managed it.
Okay.
If I could only go to the media that way.
Okay.
And because of his profile that he has, and he's an incredible man with incredible integrity. So his reputation walks far in front of him. But I also think that civil society has become more involved. And that lacked in the time with state capture. And until today, what I don't, and maybe this is not a politically correct statement I'm going to make, but we were so active in the years before apartheid and these things to raise our fist and say no more. We want to change. And now we just allow these things to happen. So for me, that civil action is lacking, but with Mkhwanazi, it seems that it's coming back. Because if you see, even the farmers in KwaZulu-Natal went and they had a protest for him. And even some of the political parties have openly now starting to support him. So I think that's the difference. But if I can give him any support or maybe guidance, I think he did the right way by going to the media and blowing it apart the way he did. I think his protection is extremely important, but I know that he's well protected. I think he's doing the way that he even testified. It's like the good policeman testified like that, factual. And I was looking at it in the evening and making notes. And the way that he interacted with the judge, the commissioner, there's a resilience in him and a commitment and wisdom. And I think that is what he expressed.